So we've pressed record. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. So we were talking about, the different categories of people that we work with and the different effects that it has on people's lives when we do the amazing birth into being method with them, and pregnant women and couples preparing for conception being a really big one. And your latest initiative, Melissa, is really about pregnancy. So
It is, yeah. My latest project is called Fearless Mama, and basically it's about feeling good during pregnancy. So because I am a true believer that feeling good during pregnancy instead of journeying through pregnancy from a place of fear or stress really changes so many things. And Nicole, that's what I want to help women in particular, but families preparing to welcome their babies into the world so that everybody gets the best start. Babies get the best start as they come to the earth, and mamas get the best start in motherhood, even if it's their second or third child. So that's been my focus of late. I've worked in pregnancy and birth support for some years now as a doula, and also with the birth into being method, and giving workshops as well in birth into being. And I've just found it to be such an amazing form of preparation for welcoming new life. Not only are you preparing yourself for parenthood, but you are clearing your own pathways, your own emotional debris that you might be taking with you into parenthood. So you get to leave all those things behind before you start looking after another life. And it just created so much transformation in so many people's lives that it's been such a blessing over the years to bring that work to couples. We, as you know, and as I'm sure you do, we work with people who are sometimes there because they are welcoming new life, and sometimes they're there just for their own healing, for their own looking at their own entry into the world, working with early childhood trauma. So people come for different reasons, but it's just phenomenal, the transformation that they can find.
I love working with couples who are preconception.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Like, these people are gold.
Yeah.
They're spiritually awake and aware enough to know that they've got stuff to clear before they even begin to, try for baby. And I just find them to be so wonderful to have in my groups, partly because I love being in that field of love, and I find that it's very intimate work, and I feel really honoured, and it's very precious to be allowed in to that equation where they are, sharing such deep love and wanting to create new life from that. Sometimes it's because they come preconception because they're actually having a little bit of difficulty, and that's also it's a total honor to be involved with, because there's so much vulnerability and so much openness and readiness and again awareness that there's more to it than the physiological, and that there could be stuff within them that's holding back conception from occurring. So I absolutely love the idea that that we can clear, as you say, the debris of the past to create clear passage for new life. And when people are bringing all of that, amazing intention and amazing openness to their healing journey, like, it's just magic to be a part of it. I absolutely love it. So
some of the stories are amazing from couples, particularly those couples that are having trouble to conceive. And they've been to the doctors, they've had the tests, there's nothing physically standing in their way. It's really an emotional block of some sort, and they come and they're just held in this space that allows them to let go of whatever that fear is that's stopping them from conceiving the baby and welcoming new life. And I've had several phone calls or emails from workshop participants literally a couple of months after they've done the workshop, and they're saying like, oh yeah, I'm 2 months or I'm 3 months along, you know. And it's like, wow, that's amazing, from one weekend of work.
It is incredible. And yeah, I also love the fact that in-person workshops, when I run my in-person workshops, I don't know about you, but I have a very mixed group. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's the same for you, where, you know, you don't turn anybody away. So, you know, you end up having preconception couples, pregnant couples, you have post-birth people there who are trying to integrate and process whatever happened in their birth of their child. Then you've got those people, as you mentioned before, that are just processing and working with their own entry to life. And I often have birth workers as well, who are to really fully understand and explore the birthing field. And having that mixed group of where everybody sits on the birthing spectrum, it's just magic, because the stories that they bring and share for each other as well. You know, there's the work that I'm bringing and the processes that we do, and then there's just the way that their stories fit together.
Yeah.
And yeah, we call that matching pictures, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's just, each time is magic. It's a total alchemy of group work. And you see it no matter what kind of a group you're joining too. Yeah. But when it's this kind of deep inner work, it's very relevant.
Yeah. Everybody holds a piece of the story for everybody else. And so the participants in the workshop are as much contributors to the work as the facilitator is. They're holding the space for that to happen. Yeah. And I think the thing I love most about these workshops is that obviously it's deep work, it's deep inner work, and we get deep and intimate really fast. And even for some people that can feel quite intimidated by that, there's such a space of safety that's created in those workshops that everybody is able to go into that vulnerability and that intimacy to really get to the place that they need to go. So I've I don't know if I've said this to you before, but a lot of my workshop participants would have heard it. When we sit in circle in the beginning of a workshop, and I'll say to them, you might be sitting here right now as strangers next to each other, but I guarantee you by the end of tomorrow afternoon, you'll be all very much in love with each other. And it's so true. They all look at me a bit strangely at first, but they realize it by the end of the following day. And it's just phenomenal.
And not just them, us too.
Oh, I mean,
us facilitator, like, I fall in love with every single person that I work with. And recently I've been doing more and more online work. And like, you know, when we do a session online, it's extremely difficult to press that button that ends the call, or when the journey. You know, lately also I've been having a lot of people booking, you know, packages of sessions. And then when we're done with our journey, pressing end on that last call, it's just, you know, I feel so blessed to be able to offer that kind of heartfelt connection to people when they're quite possibly not getting that in the rest of their journey, whether it's pregnancy or preconception. You know, there's a reason that they've reached out, and it's beautiful and very fulfilling as a facilitator, which I'm sure you experience too. Yeah,
well, as we said, we were talking about why we do this work, and I think for me that's a big part of it, is that real raw human connectedness that you experience in a birth into being workshop. And the majority of people do not get that in their lives in any other setting. And it's something I'd like to see more of in our day-to-day lives. So it's something, you know, I like to encourage it among my friends, but not everybody feels safe in their day-to-day life to interact with other people in that way, that level of intimacy and birth into being workshops really create that safe container to do that, and that's where the healing can be found, when we have that level of safety and connectedness with other human beings.
Definitely. So yeah, let's keep on with why, because we want to make these videos short. So although
we could talk all day.
Yeah. What's your why? Why were you drawn to birth into being as a facilitator? Like, you know, there's I know that there's a big story behind your, you know, your personal journey and why you sought birth into being as a means of healing for yourself. But let's just jump over that for now and go into, why did you decide that you needed to train in this modality and offer it to other people? And then you can ask me.
Well, it started right at the beginning. I went to very first workshop when Elena came to Australia. She was in Melbourne. I went there for myself, but I was already in pregnancy and birth support. So I went there also with the intention of learning about this modality to see what it was like. And I think it was within 2, maybe 3 hours. It was before lunchtime on the first day of the workshop. And I just knew. I was just like, I have got to train in this method. There was just this overwhelming certainty that, you know, this was something that really works. It resonated so strongly with me, and it touched me in so many different ways already in a couple of short hours. It was incredible. And straight away I was like, yes, I have to learn this. There was a facilitator training the very next week in New Zealand that I just could not make it to. So then I was like, when is the next one? Where is the next one? Oh, it's in Chico in California, a couple of months away. So I was like, okay, let's make this happen. So I did. I went to California maybe 2 months later and stayed there and did the facilitator training. And that first 10 days, then we come back to this depth of connection with other human beings. So the people that were in that course, in that workshop, you know, they became like family almost immediately. There's such that openness, and what I experienced while I was doing facilitator training, just how much it expanded my ability, you know, like, I don't know, it's like an expansion of my nervous system. It was sort of like, I felt almost on overload sometimes. I was like, I don't know if I can take any more love. Is it possible? I don't know. But
it's definitely, those long format trainings are definitely a strong environment. But like you say, like, such incredible transformation.
I had this burning, itching, driving me crazy for weeks. And on the first or second day, I'm not sure, Elena did a process with me. And I tell you, that night, no more itching. It was done. It was done. And I was still dealing with that illness on and off for the rest of the year. But it was like something shifted. It was gone. I was like, oh, wow. And that, to me, that was, you know, nothing short of miraculous, because like the proof was in my own transformation. And then
which is wonderful, and it brings such certainty to your own offerings as a facilitator, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know there is transformation in this work, and I've just gone on to facilitate that now for, you know, hundreds of other people, and that is such a good feeling, because I get all these stories back of what's changed in people's lives and how they feel better about this or that. You know, some people it's massive transformation and everything's turned upside down and changed for the better. And for some people it's little things, and for some people they've created new life, which is just magnificent. Yeah. Why? I started.
Why do you work with pregnancy? Why do you work with the birth into being method in pregnancy?
Yeah. I started working in pregnancy and birth support as a doula in 2009, which was after I'd had my first baby, but before my second. And The reason I got into it was because when I had my first child, I was very certain about the way my child needed to come into the world, what felt right for me, what didn't, but I didn't have the support for it. Nobody was there to show me the way. Nobody was helping. In fact, everyone was against me pretty much. But I just knew that I had to do it this certain way. That was what was right. It was the only way I was going to do it properly for me and for my baby. So that's why I got into pregnancy and birth support, because I thought, there's not enough support for women to bring in new life the way that they feel is right. Not what someone else says, not not what the doctor tells them or the family tells them or their partner tells them, but the way that they're really in alignment with their birthing desires. And so I began working in that field. And when I found the Birth into Being method, I actually had Elena's her documentary, Birth as We Know It, for some years before I even began working in Birth into Being. And so I'd seen her work and knew about her. And when the opportunity came up to learn to facilitate the method, as we've just talked about, I just found that it was so much more in helping women to align to what they really believe, instead of, because it doesn't come from a head space, it comes from a heart space, and it comes from really facilitating that change at a sort of cellular level and a deep level, like really creating deep transformation, instead of just thinking about it and saying, well, this is what I want, but the head gets in the way and stops you from doing what you are actually really aligned to. And I think that the Birth into Being method just brought so much courage to me in my life, and that when I work with that method with pregnant women, they find that courage also. And I think the courage is what brings you through to really get what you want. And that's why my latest project's called Fearless Mama, because I was just about to say. Yeah. It's not about being in the absence of fear. It's about finding the courage to do whatever it takes to have things the way that's in alignment with who you truly are and how you need to bring your child into the world. Yeah. Was that the question? Yeah. Was that the answer to the question?
I mean, I find that for myself, my why is so big that it can be a difficult question to answer in some ways, because there's so many different channels of thought and feeling around why. Myself, I was very blessed with incredible births. I had a very supportive situation, and without going, down the garden path of my birth experiences, because that's for another video.
Let's do that sometime.
Because we've both got incredible stories around our births, but I felt so blessed, so very, very blessed to have that kind of an experience, and I found it to be so transformative and expansive of my consciousness, my mind, my thoughts, my understanding of what is possible, and my love and my capacity for love. And I would love to assist in any way that I can to help more women and babies and families have that kind of an experience. And my very big, broad why is because I believe that our human family needs that. I'm also, I'm a seeker, I'm an environmentalist, I live very close to the earth, and I have, a lot of passion for things like sustainability and, our species actually having a future. I'd really like that. And I'm very aware of the different things that we can do to make that possible. In terms of, limiting our consumption and all of those things that we all know. And again, that's another very big and very broad subject. But in terms of having that passion and then breaking it down to, well, how can we continue to thrive as a species? What do we need to stop doing is one thing, and what do we need to start doing is another. And that's where birth comes in for me, because birth is so, it's foundational to who we are as people. And so having had those mind-blowingly wonderful birth experiences myself, I want to be able to help to bring that to other women, babies, and families. And the birth into being method does that really effectively. As you say, it helps to build courage. It helps to connect with ourselves, source, the other people in our lives. It helps to have the balls, but of course with women I like to change that and say ovaries. It helps us to have the incredible strength that it takes to give birth naturally today. In our modern Western society, there are a whole bunch of, as you said in your birth story, there was a lot of people working against you. You need to have an incredible amount of strength just to have what you would like for your birth. And unfortunately, we're not necessarily raised that way. So what we can do with the birth into being method, as you know, is to go back to some of those early imprinted experiences and shift them so that we have the balls, the chutzpah, the ovaries to have the births that we want in this modern day context. Because as we all know, the political situation around home birth, unassisted birth, or even natural birth, or politically correct term is physiological birth. Yes, because we must be mindful of our P's and Q's in this political climate.
Yeah.
And we all know that political climate is up the creek at the moment. There's a lot of things that a birthing woman has to sort of combat before she's even got to the part where she's dealing with the strong sensations in her body. So that's where my very broad intentions for species survival and thrival and sustainability and continuing life on our planet and maintaining connection with everything that we need to in order to actually have a future comes right down to the individual woman giving birth and what does she need to be able to bring her baby in without interventions, if as much as humanly possible, and with love, and to have a transformative, expansive, blissful experience that sets her up beautifully for her mothering, that sets her family unit, where whatever that may look like, whether it's same-sex couple or hetero couple, or whether she's doing it alone, whatever, set up her family unit for a very grounded and complementary beginning to a happy life, and the baby itself and the baby's nervous system. Because, the crux of the birth into being work is that our nervous systems are developing from the moment of conception.
Yes.
And if our nervous systems get to develop in a very steady and calm way, and we get to experience love, peace, harmony, if we get to have these, incredible peak experiences of, absolute oxytocin release in birth, then we are more capable of that throughout our life. Doesn't mean we're not capable if we miss out on it at birth, but what it does mean is that we might need to do some healing, and of course birth into being can help with that too. So anyway, there's my big my big rave on why, and there's so many other channels to it. Like I could go on for hours. Yeah, and on top of that, it's really juicy work. Like I said, I really, really feel a deep honor in being allowed into an intimate space with people, whether that's in-person workshops, in-person sessions with couples or women approaching birth, or whether it's an online session. And I am continuously amazed by what is possible in an online space.
I know. So I think working with Birth into Being in an online platform is something that's sort of only really started in the last couple of years. Am I right? It's
Pretty much, yeah.
more recently, yeah. And I was surprised too when we first started experimenting with doing processes online, because the Birth into Being method uses a lot of touch.
A lot of touch, yeah.
And in the beginning, I was like, oh, how are we going to bring this across through the screen? You know, I want to reach out and cuddle these people. I can't touch
And not just touch too, Melissa, but the intuitive connection.
So
you know, the very strong impulses and knowing that arise between, you know, a facilitator and a participant, or other participants within the group. I was questioning, how does that translate when you can't, you know, necessarily hear the person breathing, you know, because
that's right.
The way somebody breathes, that gives you so much indication about where they're at emotionally. And yeah, you know, but it does translate.
It does. It's amazing. I was so surprised, and have had some really great results, and worked with couples now, you know, in Europe, in America, and it's great. Yeah. And I think moving into the online world, as much as I still love one-on-one in person and workshops, you know, we can bring this work now to so many more people who cannot access a workshop, or of course it's also more affordable than if they have to travel to then stay somewhere and then attend a workshop.
Yeah. And what I've noticed with my online groups that I've been running, because I do online sessions but also groups, as you are now too with Fearless Mama, what I've noticed with the groups is that it also opens it up, not just for people who can't afford to travel and, you know, pay for the travel costs, the accommodation costs, but it also opens it up to people who are not yet ready to do this kind of inner work in a group.
Yeah.
And can't necessarily afford to do it privately. It means they can sort of dip their toe in the water very safely through their screen. And I mean, I had one woman who, for our first online call, she actually blacked out the camera because she didn't want to be seen. And she was still turning up for herself and showing up for the healing that she needed, but in a way where she got to really define the boundaries, which I know for a fact that the fear of exposure, and the fear of sharing one's intimate inner world with others is what stops a lot of people from coming to a group. And that's because, you know, the very work that they're seeking is the things that hold them back, and not wanting to be seen in that way, not wanting, you know, just not ready to trust yet in this big giant unknown of coming along to an intimate workshop with a whole bunch of strangers. And so the online space opens that up as well. And I think that that's magnificent, because there are many, many people out there who could greatly benefit from the work, but are just not ready to take that plunge and that leap of faith. So that's another reason why I love the online workshops that I'm running, and why I'm doing it too. As well as, I'm a mama, you're a mama, I got a family to be with, and it's quite tricky traveling around, and also my environmental sensibilities it doesn't agree with me to be jumping on flights all the time. So my big struggle is that I live in the bush and I have internet, you know, struggles. But I have a beautiful new aerial, and it's working beautifully for this call, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Well, I live in a small city, but it seems the internet still has its days when the wind's blowing the wrong way.
I think it's an Australian thing.
It might be.
So I hear, anyway. So we've touched on a lot today. And I think we should leave it there, because otherwise people will struggle to listen to the whole thing.
Yep.
So we'll have to plan our next call of maybe talking about our birth stories. Or
Oh yeah, I love that.
yeah, I love your one with the helicopter.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. And a fire truck. There was a fire truck there as well.
Well, Melissa, it's been so awesome to talk to you, and I hope that our listeners out there have also enjoyed it. And yeah, feel free to like the video, share the video, you know what to do, send it out to your friends, anyone that you think will benefit, anyone that might be thinking about the birth into being method and want to know a little bit more. And don't be shy. Write to us. Send us
we are here.
Melissa, tell me the URL for Fearless Mama.
The website is fearlessmama.online. And there you will find everything that's new, my latest project, my latest course, which is about finding certainty in a time of such huge transition. It's just a short online course that you can take. And and also if you want to work with me personally, it's all there on the website. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Melissa and I are both listed on the Birth Into Being Australia site, which is birthintobeing.com.au. And there's heaps of resources and videos and things that you can watch there to learn more about Birth Into Being. There is also the Birth Into Being International site, which is birthintobeing.com. And that lists all the facilitators all around the world that work with the Birth Into Being method. You'll find in-person workshops, different online offerings, all sorts of recordings and podcasts from Elena Taneti Vladimirova, who is the founder of the Birth Into Being method and the filmmaker behind Birth as We Know It. And yeah, heaps of information.
Yeah, and lots of facilitators in different languages too. So
yeah, thank you,
English
Melissa.
is not your first we've got a lot of them covered, most of them, I think.
We do. There's French, German, Italian, Spanish.
Yeah.
There's Polish,
Russian.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. We're a big team. I like to think of us as a pod. Like a pod of dolphins. There we all are, spreading our joy throughout the world. Okay, lots of love, Melissa.
Lots of love, Nicole. Lovely to talk to you, and we'll see you next time.
Yay.